And Aisha, as soon as you're ready, we can get going.
Okay. All right. Okay, good evening. And well, let me just do a quick check. Is everyone good to go? Everyone ready? Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Russell City Reparative Justice Steering Committee meeting for Wednesday, February 22nd. We will first get started with roll call. And I will thank you for changing the view. We don't have this part ironed out yet, but we'll start with Ms. Gloria Moore, the birthday, the belated birthday girl.
Thank you. I'm present.
Welcome. Ayana Knowles is present. Michael V. Johnson.
Present.
Welcome. Good evening. Then Ms. Deborah Harris.
Present.
Thank you. Good evening. All right. Then Ms. Marion Johnson.
Present.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Liz. Thank you. Liz.
I'm here. Thank you.
Liz Sanchez. Thank you and good evening.
Good evening.
Ms. Tony Nguyen.
Here.
Thank you and good evening. Ms. Carolyn Johnson.
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for being here. Next, Michael D. Johnson. Doesn't look like he is logged on just yet. And Cindy Torres. Doesn't look like she's logged on just yet either. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item is a brief statement, and certainly anyone can add to this.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
So I believe that a quorum has been established.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the confirmation of quorum. For anyone who may be watching this meeting on a recording, you are watching the Russell City Reparative Justice Steering Committee meeting. And my apologies, we did not yet introduce staff. My apologies. So joining us this evening are Ms. Regina Youngblood, Assistant City Manager from the City of Hayward, and Ms. Jenny Chacon, also from the City of Hayward, the Equity and Inclusion Officer.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Should we anticipate any other guests from the city tonight? No. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, we are ready to move into just a brief statement about who we are. The members of the steering committee and I are descendants or we have some former residents of Russell City. And so we are here representing our family members, supporters of Russell City, those who knew and loved Russell City and spent their lives there before they were forced out as a result of eminent domain. And so this is a meeting where we are discussing various items, some of which may bring up painful memories. And so at times, some of us may turn our cameras off to take a moment to breathe. But we are all here because we are representing a larger Russell City community. And this meeting, so that the larger Russell City community that we are representing is being recorded. And we have a working agreement with the City of Hayward about the posting of the videos from this meeting. Once the recording is completed, then we will continue to be in communication with the city staff so that the meetings are posted provided the members of the steering committee are aware of them being posted. And so that is a continuing working relationship, which is improving. Is there anything anyone would like to add as part of the grounding statement? No, okay. Thank you. We will move on to the next item. Old business. This is a continuation of a topic that is ongoing, and we are hoping to receive an update on process and what we can do to move forward in order to obtain a facilitator / project manager for this project. And so Ms. Youngblood or Ms. Chacon, if you have an update related to the facilitator request for proposals or the information that was submitted in the previous meeting, you are welcome to share it now.
Excuse me, we are currently working with our procurement office to identify an expedited process for posting your statement of work. We have not received a response just yet. I am hopeful that we will get one by tomorrow, and I will be able to further provide you with an update at that time. But what we're looking for is the quickest avenue possible to post and identify additional qualified individuals for you to consider so that you can make your choice.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from the floor? No questions? Michael V. Johnson.
Yes, can you please describe for us what is the cause for the delay? And the lack of response by your procurement officer?
We actually started, as you might recall, from our December 14th meeting. Our city attorney was present and he offered to assist with an expedited process. So we started communicating with the city attorney's office, but then we were redirected to our procurement office. So procurement has just gotten involved in the conversation within the last couple of days. So they had not necessarily been holding the ball. We were awaiting a response from our city attorney's office.
And what was the source of the delay between the communication between your city attorney and the procurement office, given that that represents essentially 2.5 months of delay?
Well, I don't know that it essentially represents 2.5 months of delay. I think what our city attorney's office essentially was waiting for was to receive the statement of work, which we did just receive from you before the last meeting. And so conversations began once we had the statement of work. And that is something that they'd asked us for earlier on.
Is there any reason why the city attorney hasn't shown up the last couple of meetings?
He does not intend to attend these meetings in an ongoing way. I mentioned previously, and this is for others that are just now seeing this, the city attorney's reason for being in the earlier meetings was to simply observe and to provide some information related to the, as he called them, kind of guidelines around the types of things that the city could and could not entertain in the form of a recommendation, but he doesn't intend to be an ongoing participant in these meetings.
And you stated that you anticipated that you will receive a response by tomorrow, correct?
I am hopeful. Jenny can possibly speak more to that, but I can't guarantee, but I'm hopeful that we will get a response because we have stressed the urgency of response.
Yes, and it was literally today that I got a response back from procurement as Ms. Youngblood said, it was a conversation originally with a city attorney's office. So
as we all know, hope is not a strategy, right? And so given that hope is not a strategy, what can we have as far as the communication as to what the strategy should be or would be if we don't hear from the procurement officer by tomorrow?
Mhm. Thank you for that reminder. And certainly we don't hope only, but we continue to follow up. And so the strategy is to pester and to continue to follow up until we get an answer to the question and begin to move this forward.
Is there avenue for escalation of this process should the procurement officer not be responsive?
Yes, absolutely. We can always escalate.
May I make a request? Because I think we're at the time where escalation, where we're ready for the next step. So would you be able to send a follow-up message and then include at a minimum, the chair and the vice chair to ask for a status update and a timeline? Because we have exceeded the what I'll call a reasonable amount of time for a response. And if a response is not received, then I think it's well within our expectations that the process would quickly advance to another division who's able to respond in a timely manner. Does that work?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there additional questions? Oh, go ahead.
And just clarification too, I did respond back today saying what we need is a timeline. We're looking for the technical requirements and what are the exact steps and timeline so that we can go back and are able to give you that feedback. So we'll follow up with them again.
Sure. No, I didn't mean that comment to be directed at you. It was directed to the person, whoever else is working on the project. You know, we were told that meeting in December that the city attorney would be instrumental in helping to move this process along, right? Because all of us have expressed, or many have expressed concerns about things being delayed and timeline. And he assured us in that meeting, in a statement he made, that it would move. It's not moving now, so we're supporting you in the process moving. That's how I look at it. Because it's easier for them to have to answer to community members and residents of Hayward than it might be to a staff member. So thank you for the update. Are there additional questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none, that was an information item. So we'll move on to, I'll consider that item closed as far as an update. So we will wait to get an update from you, Ms. Youngblood and Ms. Chacon, about whatever's happening next, and then report back to the committee. So the next item on the agenda is some planning development for our future meeting agendas. And so this is something as we set our meeting schedule, and in looking at the meetings that would be work meetings, and Ms. Ayana, would you be able to share the meeting schedule by chance?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm also trying to get my dinner together. 1 second.
Okay.
Cindy has been trying to join, and I now have a CCA joining. So
Oh,
I'm
yes. Yeah, that's the Cherryland Community Association. It's her.
Oh, okay. Look, diligence. So let's see if this account works. And then you asked for me to share the
meeting schedule.
Yep.
Thank you.
Stand by.
So in the last meeting, we adopted or approved the meeting planner that will be shared shortly. And we agreed to have, and this could change, but we agreed to have a working session and a public meeting. And so as part of the agenda planning development and looking the next month ahead, we wanted to check in with everyone about, we wanted to check in with
Is Aisha frozen for everyone else? Oh, did we lose her?
Yes.
I've been on Zooms all day. I don't understand why every time I get into the Russell City Steering Committee meeting, Zoom crashes. Must mean I have been on too many Zooms for the day. I'm going to keep it brief. We want to work on planning the agenda for the next month. And so as we look forward or look ahead to having one planning meeting as a steering committee and one public meeting that the larger community can log into and listen to updates on, are there suggestions on who we'd like to see as presenters in the meeting? So for example, an update from the researchers, both for us as a steering committee, and then as well as requesting to have them provide a brief update in the public meeting. And Deborah, Liz, and Michael V. Johnson, feel free, if that doesn't capture it, feel free to add info.
Yeah, we thought it would be worthwhile if the researchers will be able to present to us at the next working session the results of their efforts to date, both documentation and information that they have available that has been accumulated to date with regard to their work effort. I don't know if it would make sense for us to schedule them for the public meeting on the following session if what they have presented isn't substantial. It may, in fact, not be appropriate to include them on that public meeting. So certainly for us, having them there on that first working session in March would be very useful for us.
Okay, any thoughts or additional suggestions, comments? Marion. Marion and then Deborah.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that for our meetings, we're having 2 meetings a month, and the first meeting in the month will be the working group meeting, and then the second one will be the public meeting. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Yes, that is correct. Deborah Harris.
Michael was saying that after we get the information from the researchers, that it should not be shared in the public meeting. I don't know, I kind of have a...
Well, so let me clarify. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be. I'm saying there may not be enough information that they present to us to even share. We don't know that yet.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll decide after we get the information whether or not
Right.
it would be. Okay, got you.
Yeah. A thought for the public meeting is it would be useful if we had the representatives from the community services group, the folks who actually drafted the apology to begin with, to have them talk to us about what the thoughts that went into drafting the actual apology that was approved by the city council. To actually give us context for the work that we're now doing, and more of a historical perspective as to how we landed here. In addition to that, I thought that it might be useful if we would have someone from the city council or perhaps even the mayor weigh in on what it is that they thought was meant by the apology and the expectations that they have for what they'd like to see presented to them at the end of the project. We definitely have seen in the website what that is, but it'd be very useful for us to have them kind of frame for us what their expectations are about our deliverable from the folks who actually voted on the work that we're now doing.
Thanks, Michael. Aisha, I just want, and others, want to acknowledge that Cindy was finally able to join us.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Cindy. We're glad you're here.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I don't know why it just wasn't letting me in. So I apologize, but I don't know what else I could have done.
No apology necessary. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Are there any comments, questions, suggestions? Gloria.
I think Michael's suggestion is a good one, that the mayor, the commission, and perhaps city council members establish the framework and kind of welcome the group and discuss expectations, outcomes, timeline. Just hearing their perspective of where they see this going would be beneficial to our group, I think, and to the community.
Thank you, Gloria. Last call for questions or comments.
One last suggestion. That would be, I know that's a lot of activity going on with regards to the idea of reparations throughout the state of California. I know that there is some something that's taking place on this, was it Friday at Mills College? And I know that there was some efforts or some desire for us to, engage with Alameda County in terms of their efforts. It may not be pertinent or there may not be enough space, but to the extent that there was something where folks from the California Reparations Committee and the work that's been going on there, as well as us being informed by what activity is taking place at Alameda County with regards to their efforts, may be useful to inform the public as to all of the different activities that are going on in Alameda County, in the city of Hayward, and at the state level as well. Kind of give a broad framework that could be considered in terms of all the activity and efforts that are going on.
Thank you, Michael. I see Deborah with your hand up, and then I'll go back to you, Gloria.
Oh, I just want to agree with Michael that I felt that these people should be present, that he had mentioned. That was my only thing.
Thank you. I also support the suggestions. Having someone from the committee that was one of the authors or helped author the recommendations, and this is part of an update later, but did have met with the mayor and the mayor pro tem, and there is interest from the mayor in visiting a meeting and saying hello to the members. And I think it would be helpful, as I've had placed in an email to city staff and which the mayor was copied on, about what does the apology mean? I don't think we've heard that from, we all know that this resolution was passed and there are attachments that are part of the resolution and actions that were recommended that council adopted. But how does that translate to our involvement on this committee and the process that we are going through? So I think that's, he would be a good presenter, as well as maybe the chair of the committee. The chair is unavailable. Artavia Berry, and then someone from the state or the San Francisco Reparations Committee, because they have at some point, I'm not saying all these people need to come immediately, but they have a bit of a different process that they are undergoing to seek input from the community, and their meetings follow a more of a traditional committee format. And so it would be helpful to hear from them what their experience has been, and if they have any advice to share with us as we continue through this process. And that's all I have in addition to the researchers. Tony Wynn, I saw you had a hand raised. Or was that an accidental hand? If you don't, it's okay if it's accidental. I'll move on until we hear back from you. You might have just hit something on your device. Okay. So I missed someone. Did I hear something? No. Okay. So we have that input, and this transitions us, if there are no questions or Michael V. Johnson.
I think you were headed where I was going, so I'll let you head there on your own.
I was actually going to go out of order. Go ahead, and I'll kick it back to you.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if we are going to entertain a motion about those proposals for agenda items. Or not? Would you like to have a motion, or are we finished discussion, or where are we with this?
Good question. I wasn't thinking a motion. I think maybe it could be one thing that we request assistance from staff and see what the reality of scheduling, at least for the first, maybe the first meeting, we create a foundation, right? Because when these meetings started, people heard about the apology. There were a lot of questions, a lot of things discussed. The meetings were long. And the first committee meeting, not this steering committee meeting, the larger Russell City committee, the 3-hour meeting, maybe my time reference is incorrect, but it would be nice now that we're a steering committee to revisit these items and kind of hear the story behind the apology, and hear from the mayor what direction has been provided to staff in order to carry out this process, because the council and the mayor provide direction to city staff in order to lead things forward. But we can entertain a motion. Are you making, I think that sounds like you were making a motion, Reverend Johnson.
Yeah, so the motion is for the first date is to have the working session be with the researchers, to give them the opportunity to put on full display all the efforts that have been made, the research that's been gathered, and where we are as of to date with this work for the 15th. The 29th would be at a minimum, the input from the city council member, the representation from the Community Services Committee, I believe it's Artavia Berry, about both the development of the apology as well as what that means for us and our work and what the desired outcome for that work would be. If we have the opportunity to include folks from the state and folks from Alameda County in that session, that would be a part of the agenda for that evening, the public session agenda. So that's the motion that I'm bringing to the floor. Is there a second?
I would like to add the mayor to that before we second.
Yes. Yep. Is there, but is there a second?
I second.
All right.
So it's been moved by Michael V. Johnson, and the second was issued by Ayanna Knowles. Any questions or comments before we call for the vote? Okay, so if you support this motion, all those in favor, raise your virtual hand or your physical hand. And I see hands raised and reaction hands in the screen, so it passes unanimously. Thank you. We have one person who's absent, and that's Michael D. Johnson. All right, moving on to the, thank you for that, Michael V. Johnson. Brings us, we are moving right along. Next item on the agenda is the confirmation of new board members and confirming an onboarding process. And I don't think this item, this is more or less a formality. So we have one person who has submitted resignation and is no longer able to serve. And that's Rebecca Hill Long. In our last meeting, we voted to expand the committee membership. And so the question that we have for staff is to proceed in reaching out to the next folks on the list. And I apologize, I have a little bit of a cold. I don't know if it's allergies or what, but I can't breathe clearly. So
I'm right there with you.
So I'm either talking slower so I can breathe or moving the cough drop around in my mouth. So Ms. Youngblood and Ms. Chacon, if you have an update or if there is, so the next individual on the list, would you remind, or would you share?
I think
Is it Kathy Rodriguez?
I think that would be possibly Francesca. Hold on, please. Okay, so Francesca Thomas, and then after that is Kathy Rodriguez.
Okay, perfect. So Ms. Chacon, I know that you mentioned you were able to touch base with Ms. Priscilla Figueroa. And so it is Priscilla that we need to send information to for the meetings and have an onboarding process. And Ms. Torres, Cindy Torres, I think you've attended the meeting, so you don't need a, if you'd like an onboarding process, but I don't think you need one because you have been present for all of the meetings. So it would be, so two things, reaching out to, well, a couple things, contacting Priscilla, then reaching out to Priscilla as the additional board member along with Cindy. But Priscilla will need some onboarding because she hasn't attended any of the meetings. And then two alternates would be Francesca and Kathy Rodriguez. Michael V. Johnson.
Yeah, so if it's okay, I'd like to make sure we kind of level set where we were at from the very beginning.
Sure.
And so when we started out with 11, which included Rebecca Hill Long, which is no longer with us.
No longer on the committee. She's still alive. Yeah.
Yes, she's still alive. And then we had Yvette and Cindy, who were the original alternates. And Yvette Hippolyte also resigned as well. And so what that means now is that with Rebecca Hill Long being gone, then it would be Cindy as the first new voting member, followed by the expansion of the committee of 2 people as voting members. And that would be Sabina and Priscilla. What is the status on Sabina? Was there still interest from her, or we moved past her?
We moved past that one. It was more Priscilla that we heard back from.
Okay, so then it would be Priscilla would be the first new additional member as a voting member. And then it would be Francesca would be the second new member, if I'm following this correctly. And that would bring us to 13 as voting members. And then the 2 alternates would then be Kathy Rodriguez and Vel DeGo if they have interest in participating. Is that correct? Just making sure that we're on the same page as to where we actually stand with the participants.
Yes, no, thank you for doing that. I missed one step. We'll go with Jenny first, because I think you're going to answer the question, and then Liz.
Just to clarify, who do you want me to reach out to? Priscilla, and then also Cindy for the immediate onboarding and wanting to be part of the committee. And these other 2, do you want me also to reach out to them or no?
We're going to figure that out momentarily.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was
level
just
set.
I was just kind of level setting on where we were
Yes.
at, right? And so with Rebecca Hill Long being gone, no longer resigning, then we needed to replace her as the 11th of the original 11 voting members. That would be Cindy, that would be moved into that role as the 11th. And then we also know that Yvette Hippolyte, she also resigned. So we would move past her. Sabina has not responded, and so she's not going to be participating unless she comes at some point and says she's actually interested. But given that we haven't heard a response from her, then moving on down the list, that means that Priscilla and Francesca would be the new members of the expanded committee as voting members as we voted last week. If they both chose to accept. And then that would leave Kathy Rodriguez and Vel DeGo as the individuals that would be extending an invitation to the committee as alternates.
Thank you. Liz?
My question was just only regarding Sabina. Did we try to call her and email her? Is that why both of them? Just so that for the record, all avenues were reached out so that, she didn't get the message. That's all.
If you want me to try again, just let me know to confirm.
Sure.
Yes, and maybe because at the time of this information going out about the committee, Jenny, I don't think you were you were hired in the city yet, so maybe, I don't know, maybe she thinks it's a email from something else. I don't know.
I sent the original communication to her.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right. Well, if there have been multiple attempts to get in touch with her via phone and email, and she has not responded, then I think as long as that has been completed, then we move on to the next individual on the list. The next person would be Priscilla. And so Jenny, you've been able to get in touch with Priscilla.
Yes.
So that, so first we were talking about Priscilla because we had the vacancy of alternates. Since then, as Michael said, the structure of the committee has changed and been expanded. So Cindy became the first alternate. So she is now a committee member. With the resignation of Rebecca Hill Long, we have a vacancy for a committee member, and then we have 2 vacancies for alternates. So, as was stated, we would like to continue on the list for the next 2 names so that after Cindy, then Priscilla would be the next board member or the next steering committee member. And then you would continue on the list to invite the next 2 names on the list, which would be Francesca. And then the following name
It's Kathy Rodriguez.
is Kathy Rodriguez. Okay. And then there is only 1 additional name on the list, and that is Velda Go.
Correct.
Michael
Both-
V. Johnson, you are muted. Now
Yeah,
you're on.
and both would serve, based on where we are, both would serve as alternates. Those last 2 would be offered the last 2 alternate positions, both Kathy Rodriguez and Velda Go.
But we're missing Francesca.
So,
Oh, that's right, because of the 13. So Cindy,
Yes.
right,
Cindy and Priscilla become, oh, the 11,
become,
12, yes.
Yes.
Number short 1.
right. So Cindy and Priscilla will become the next 2. That leaves us with the 13th committee member, voting member that needs to be added. That should be extended first to Francesca. And if she accepts, then there leaves the 2 alternate spots, which are Kathy Rodriguez and Velda Go.
Bless you.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there a motion to provide staff with direction, or does staff need, was that unclear enough to where you were able to clear it up?
Just motion what the agreement is.
So the motion would be to fill all of the vacancies, whether they be full member or alternate, based on the remaining members that are left on the voted in list of representatives. That would be the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Liz. It's been moved by Michael B. Johnson, and the second has been issued by Liz Sanchez. Are there any questions or discussion before we call for the vote? None? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand, your physical hand or your virtual hand using the reaction button on your screen or on your phone or mobile device. Okay. We are just missing Carolyn Johnson. All right, so everyone has voted. All those who vote no, please raise. We'll wait for all the hands to go down. Then I'll call for the no's. All right, anyone who is opposed, please raise your virtual hand or raise your physical hand in the space or in your Zoom screen. And then anyone who would like to abstain, raise your hand or say you'd like to abstain. All right, well, I might have missed Carolyn.
You didn't miss.
Oh, I didn't? Okay, my apologies. I missed the hand. Okay.
No,
so
you
motion-
didn't miss the hand. There was no
Okay.
hand.
Okay, all right.
So that should be counted as an abstain.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. So the motion passes with one abstention. All right, we're going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is report from the city. We're on item number 6. And this is just a check-in and update on, we saw that you'll be participating in a panel on Friday for a reparations conference that is being hosted virtually. And just wanted to invite you to share any information with our committee that we may not be aware of.
Yeah. It was news to me that we were supposed to be providing any kind of panel support. I've attended these before.
And myself as well.
Yeah, where they're really a lot
Oh.
more informal, where they just have people come and listen and get ideas about how to work in this space. I didn't know that I was supposed to be on a panel until I saw the agenda. So I plan on basically just providing an update on where we are in the work and the status of the steering committee at this point, and would be happy to answer any questions that people have, but I'm not making any kind of a formal presentation. It's always interesting to hear the county go before us because they talk about all of the collaboration that they've had with us on this project, but I haven't seen that myself. But hopefully now that the county administrator has actually identified a person on the county side, I think that would be a great opportunity for us to begin to have some more of those conversations and to see, when you have your meeting that would involve the county and the state, to see if that representative is available to also talk about how they might interweave themselves in the work.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Marion Johnson.
Thank you. My question would be for situations and seminars and whatever happens in terms of reparations. We're in a unique position because it's not just African Americans, it's Indigenous, it's Hispanic people that are involved in our particular case. So if you are talking to the county, are you expressing the uniqueness of our situation? Because we were a community of many different cultures. Also, I would like to know if you will be partnering with our chair and, bringing her in on these conversations that you potentially will be having with Alameda County, or any state meetings that you will be having. How would you be reaching out to our group in order for us to give input as to, what directions we should take? But we're very unique because we're not just African American. We're so many different cultures blended together. That's my question.
That's a great question. And yes, we in every space express the uniqueness of Russell City. We've talked about this with many people when we started down this path to see if we could get individuals who have worked in the reparations space in other municipalities, cities, and states. And part of what we shared with them was the unique and multicultural nature of the Russell City community. That in turn caused some of those individuals to not necessarily want to assist, or they asked us to start using the language of reparative justice instead of reparations. There is a community out there that wants to keep the conversation around reparations focused specifically on Black people, descendants of slaves. And if you've watched any of the state task force, there's a lot of back and forth, or there had been a lot of back and forth about that. And even when I presented on the update at the State Reparations Task Force, I don't know if you listened to that, but there was an individual who I'm sure was directing his comments to me because I expressed how Russell City was unique and reflective of many different cultures. And it did not necessarily go over well with at least one of the state task force members who felt like we should not be operating in this space. So we do keep that at the forefront of our minds and at the top of our conversations whenever we're in these spaces, because it is very different. But it doesn't mean that this work should not be done. And so whenever we're asked just to speak about, again, what the city is trying to do, I'm happy to provide them an update, or anyone who wants it, an update from the city perspective. And when it makes sense, and I think it sometimes will, if they want to hear from the steering committee, Aisha, as your representative, will be the person that I do pull in for those conversations. But oftentimes these are, now I don't know what Friday will be, but oftentimes these are more kind of like brainstorming sessions of what worked for you, what didn't work over here, what did you try, what were some of the stumbling blocks that you have encountered. Sometimes it's an opportunity to find out, like, who have you worked with, so that we can drum up against additional individuals who might be able to assist with this work. But again, I don't know exactly how Friday will unfold, but definitely we will continue to communicate how Russell City was a multicultural community, continues to be a multicultural community of individuals with interest in this work.
Ms. Marion, does that address your comments, or do you have any follow-up questions?
That does address my my question. It's just that I want to be clear that it is essential for our group to be highlighted, given because we have so many, we also are still a part of the discussion for reparations for African Americans. So that although we do have other cultures that are just as much a part of our community and our family, we don't want to miss out on the opportunities to show that there were enough African Americans for this to still be a part of any conversations regarding African Americans. And by default, this land was indigenous before we got there. So we can't leave the indigenous community out. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marion. Ms. Youngblood, we'll go to you, and then we'll go to Michael V. Johnson.
I just wanted to do a little cleanup and make sure that I say, I think that the county is very invested in the work that we're doing, but hadn't necessarily had the capacity before. Now, I think, to engage with us now that there is a point person. I do believe that they're intending on hiring 2 more people to work in their equity and inclusion office. which won't be focused specifically on this project, but will have some connectivity to this project, that they'll be in a better place to step up and assist. And so I'm looking forward to that. We will continue to keep the lines of communication open with the county and invite them to the table as is needed.
Thank you. Michael V. Johnson.
I was just going to piggyback on the comments about reparative justice versus reparations. There's not a difference. Reparative justice and reparations are in whole and in part the same thing. It's not defined by what race or individuals need to have harm repaired. It is reparations for harm and reparative justice to those who need to have reparative justice. Particularly speaking around the issue of the state, there is a whole section of the state report that is dedicated to housing injustice. And that completely encapsulates the work that we're doing around Russell City. So it's while it may be targeting reparations largely and targeting the Black community from a state point of view, we squarely fit in the space and the place in their discussion around around housing injustice, which is how we can definitely make the connection that it doesn't matter what the race of the folks that were harmed in the housing injustice. The fact that they were harmed is really the point that we want to make sure we connect in that conversation that we're having with those who may want to question whether or not our place in the reparation discussion is a fit. It's a really good fit, only heightened by the fact that we were both Black and are fit in the space of housing injustice and land being taken and eminent domain and all those discussions that are around that part of the report. That's all I have.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? Okay, none. The other item we just wanted to provide an update on, or provide space for us to receive an update, was related to the budget.
Yes, can I project from here? I can, okay. I will do that. Let me zoom. Yeah, I mean, really, it's not as, here's the update for it, and then how, the only different, the difference from last time. So share.
Hold on one second. Yeah, so you're going to share your screen.
You should be able to, Jenny.
Okay, let me try that. Host disabled.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hold on.
We run a tight ship here. Not
It's
everybody
okay.
can be a co-host.
Try now.
Okay, thanks. All right. So basically here, let me just go on here. You guys can all see it. There was this overall budget that's under in a budget for the city that is different aspects of Russell City. And so under restorative justice, these are it's the total of 170 overall for all these different items, including things that are already like the art projects and these other things like the picnic. So basically the only difference from last time was a difference of $11,798 that we paid for mostly Circle Up for facilitation and some reimbursements for the picnic. And we have money here, for example, the art project that we were talking about, I think at another meeting. This has already been put aside at $50,000. This has been like $681 spent, and this is how much is left over. And then the big difference from last time is we were waiting for, there was a donation from the Russell City Energy Center for $20,000, which is where we had been looking to help support the project manager RFP. We forwarded that to city council for approval and because we have to do that anytime we get a donation, and that was approved on the 7th. So currently we are working towards now getting the contract signed between the Energy Center and the city to begin to be able to disperse the money once we want to use it. So essentially unrestricted, everything else that hasn't been allotted right now is about $49,000. To our balance, and then this is like what we don't have for anything left over, but really this is still allotted. So basically you have more of 20 that is not promised to something else. Michael. Oh, I'm not facilitating. So you, Aisha.
Listen, I was my hand was getting ready to undo the mute. Thank you. I'm just joking. Michael V. Johnson and then Ms. Gloria Moore.
Gloria can go ahead of me. Thanks.
Gloria, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I just wanted Jenny to come in on, Liz just sent the note that the art budget is 55,000, not, I see it here as 50,000.
That's,
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, this is what I ran in the project. So let me double check on that because I'm just running based on like what's in Russell City. I don't know if there's like a pot of money where they stuck something else, but I will follow up with that as well.
That's what the RFP went out as at 55,000.
Okay, so I will check that discrepancy of why the RFP and then the system is not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Michael.
Michael, there you go.
Yeah, can you scroll up for a moment? I want to walk through this with you for just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the starting project budget.
Can you make the font just a little bit bigger, please?
Okay, hold on. We do, or can we do?
Or
Yeah,
that's
that's good. Okay.
Or no, I mean I'm one of the people wearing glasses on this. So if the other folks who who are not wearing glasses can see it, or wearing glasses need it larger, please.
There.
You can
Okay.
expand it. You can stretch it out and expand it to make it larger on your screen.
I did. It's still small. Thank you. That works. That works.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we start in column F3, the total is 170 as is reflected here.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you scroll to the left, I can't see over to the left. Can you scroll over to the left?
Yeah, so left scrolling.
Right.
Just,
So the question I have just to start with is and can you scroll up? I just want to see the very top heading.
Oh, the top heading. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this says Russell City Reparative Justice Project 2223.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is the whole 170 a part of the Russell City Reparative Justice Project, or is just part of it part of the Russell City Reparative Justice Project budget?
Part of it. And so we can, if that is confusing, we can change the heading. I think, Jenny was attempting to show you everything that the city has set aside for our work and support of Russell City.
Mm-hmm.
But the project, if that is the sticking point of semantics, the project really involves this top part under restorative justice.
So then, yes,
yeah, thank you. And items that would go there. So there's some things like the art that is something that was happening before the apology even happened. That was a known quantity or an item. So it probably is confusing kind of to mix the two. And maybe what we want to do going forward is to just show the amounts that are unrestricted for the steering committee's use.
Got it. So if that's the case, just so I'm clear, if the 50,000 is the only thing that is not included in the Russell City Restorative Project, then the question that I have, and there may be some folks who sit on the art committee, is does the art have anything to do with Russell City?
Yes,
The dollar amount, does that relate to Russell City, or does it not relate to Russell City at all?
I think your co-chair, your vice president of this group is a part of that art committee, and Liz might be able to speak to it.
Yes, Michael V. Johnson. The committee consists of Russell Cityans. Of course, Gloria Moore is on there. If you want to know the list, I can gladly send you that, but it is
No,
Russell.
I'm not interested in the list. I'm interested in the nature of the art.
It is how can I say this? It is piece that will reflect Russell City, yes.
Does the art reflect anything else besides Russell City?
No, does not.
So it's totally dedicated to Russell City,
Correct.
and somehow it's not a part of the Russell City project budget.
It is
Just
part
wanna
of the Russell City project because it was,
Oh, so it is a part of the Russell City project. It's not separate and apart from the Russell City project. Is that what you're telling me? Just want to be sure I understand.
That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm saying is that the art piece and its dedication to Russell City was something that was in the works prior to the apology by City Council, prior to the even envisioning of this work. As Jenny was showing you everything that the city has committed to related to Russell City,
Got
that
it.
piece is not a part of the project funding available for this steering committee's use.
Got it. So thank you for that. I just wanted to be sure I understood before I went further. Now, the $20,000,
Hmm.
is that related to the Russell City project or not?
It is. That $20,000 donation is going to be given to you to be used at your discretion for this project work.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you, Regina. Now, so let's scroll back up to the top.
Mhm.
So then that
Can I ask
number,
one question? Can I ask one question?
yeah,
When Regina, when you say to you, you are referring to the steering committee. Is that correct?
Yes, let me be clear. It will be allocated for steering committee use. So I don't want to misrepresent as though the city is going to cut a check to the steering committee for you all to utilize those funds. These are still city funds that have to be utilized through various city procurement methodologies, et cetera. And so it is going to be allocated for your use, and you all can determine what it's going to get used for.
got it. So then and I'll be brief, I'm gonna go through this really quick. So then that total project starting budget should be 120 and not 170,
Okay.
right? I'm just making sure. Okay, so then,
Excuse me, I'm sorry. So if you're correct about the budget being 55 instead of 50, it would be 115, right?
Mhm. You'd be right if that is correct. So somewhere between 115 and 120, we'll just have to get clarification on the art piece, because originally it was supposed to be a $50,000 set aside. If $55,000 went out on the RFP, I don't have any knowledge of that, but we'll work with what we need to work with.
so I'm gonna ask Marion, if you don't mind, if you'd hold your questions until I finish. Thank you. Okay, so now I'm working from that 120 number, whether it's 115 or 150. And then I'm looking at the Center on Juvenile criminal justice, the budget there is 31.9. There's been spent 4,350 to date. And so there is a balance that's still encumbered there to 27,550. Now for Circle Up Education, the budget there is 23,101. And what was spent was 16,947. Is Circle Up the same folks that were doing the facilitation for our first 3 meetings?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And is it safe to say that we can expect that no further expenses will be spent on Circle Up because they are no longer billing us for services that they've already rendered?
We have just received what I do believe is a final invoice that has not been processed. But once we process their final invoice, any monies left there can be unencumbered for other use.
Got it. And then the Evelyn Dunn, it looks like there was a budget set aside and then it was spent. So that one has been fully exhausted.
Mhm.
And then it looks like there was no budget for Angela Andrews,
Mhm.
but there was an expense. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. So, and other members of your steering committee probably understand this as well, because they were a part of the Russell City Reunion Picnic planning. So the caterer who was selected by that group, and the city agreed to sponsor the food for that event. The caterer showed up many hours late. And there was not enough food. There were supposed to be 2 vendors, 2 caterers. So one caterer showed up to do the tacos and different things, but the caterer that was supposed to be bringing the chicken and the ribs and all of that kind of stuff was hours late. And so Councilmember Andrews and Liz Sanchez graciously decided to go across the street and buy food, bought some food from Caesar's Chicken, which I was very happy that they did, because now that's one of my favorite places to go. But they paid for that and were reimbursed.
Okay,
It was not a planned expense.
got it. So then the total expense for the picnic was the 4,800 plus the 870 and the 494.
That's correct. That's correct.
And we paid Ms. Dunn the full amount despite the fact that they showed up late.
That's correct.
May I interject just a friendly suggestion for this particular agenda item, because it honestly looks like there's a couple of things missing from the budget. So thank you for the update, number one. Number two, clearly we still have a lot of questions about this item. I'm going to ask for this item to come back to us. And Jenny, I know that you're scouring different accounts, and it sounds like there is money that has been captured in different divisions that's not yet on this spreadsheet that you're sharing with us. So I think you have an idea of, based on what the comments have been, what additional information needs to be added. And I have some things that is not the full accounting of the picnic, because there's one vendor missing. But I'm going to go to questions from the floor, and then so we can move on to the next item. But this is of great interest to us, and I don't want us to lose it. I just want to ensure that we're in the chat, Carolyn Johnson, please add the sole source RFP. Carolyn, I know you had your hand raised. We'll go to you and then we'll go back. No,
it was the same. It was just
Okay.
basically, it'd be great to know which one of these contracts followed the RFP process and which ones were sole source. Because I still don't see the connection between some of the folks who've gotten quite a bit of money and any of the work. Like I know Center for Juvenile Justice, I funded them for many years, and I just don't know how they got picked to do anything related to this project. They have absolutely no shade on them. It's just I know what they do. They don't do anything connected to this work. So I want to understand just which contracts were sole source and which ones were following the RFP that we're being asked to follow. Great.
Okay, thank you. Gloria, Miss Gloria.
I'm lowering my hand. I'm lowering my hand.
Oh, okay, you don't have a comment. All right.
Yeah.
Ms. Deborah Harris.
I don't see the people who did the tacos on there either. But is that what you were referring to?
Yes, that's, I was referring to the park reservations because Kennedy Park was not
Correct.
free. And the taco vendor, and I think identifying what Ms. Carolyn Johnson just mentioned would also be helpful for an understanding from the committee.
Yeah, the park for us was free because of our relationship with HARD. They normally charge to rent those spaces, but if we ask, we can get a waiver. So I think that was part of our asking. We can add it as an asterisk, but we didn't actually pay any funds for that.
So we actually did because I paid.
Okay.
And I was
Remember?
I was given my money back because the park site that we use, just as a point of clarification, the site of the picnic is not the site that the city reserved. So I paid for it with my credit card to ensure that we had the same location that we've had a majority of the last 40 times the picnic has been held. And then I submitted it for reimbursement. And Daniel, I guess, worked with the park district, so they reimbursed me.
Okay.
Or they returned.
They returned your money.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, and so in reserving ultimately the spot, we did not have to pay. So the park gave you your money back, but the city did not expend any funds for the reservation.
Sure. Oh, it's expending something. It's if the city is approving a $20,000 donation as part of this process, these are items that are not that don't go unnoticed by organizations. They're captured somewhere. So if they're captured in the HARD district documentation, for all of us to for just us to note that took place, because we don't want to hear a year from now, oh, the park district donated so much money to the Russell City Reparative Justice Steering Committee, and we're not aware of it. So if that item could be added to the budget, just for a matter of understanding of what the real cost of these items are, I think that would be helpful.
It should be reflected as an in-kind contribution, essentially, to acknowledge the dollars going back and forth.
Perfect.
Right. And since it was in kind, do you remember how much you were reimbursed back?
It was over $600. I'll look for the receipt and tell you.
Okay.
Ms. Marion Johnson.
Thank you. Just from my perspective, listening to all of these credits and debits on monies that we're told are set aside for this process, it just looks like a lot of people are dipping into the account for whatever reason, and it's reducing the amount of money and finances that we have available for actual use to procure, facilitators. It just seems like there's a lot of dipping, and it looks questionable to me. I don't know about anybody else, but to me it looks questionable. There's always a reason why we're taking this money. The Arts Committee is committed to $55,000, and it's digging into anything that we can do productively to move this process forward. That's just my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this will be an ongoing update. To me, it would be a standing item on the agenda. If there are any updates from city staff, does that work for you for now until we have an update that reflects the information a bit more accurately as we move forward. Okay. I'm going to close out this item unless there are other comments or questions. All right. We're running a little bit over, and I'm confident about ending on time. Brief updates from me and the members of the executive board. So feel free to chime in, Liz, Michael, and Deborah. So I met with, by myself, I was contacted by Mayor Salinas and Angela Andrews, who's the mayor pro tem. She's a city council member. We met to discuss communication on the committee. There, and I think in a previous meeting, I mentioned there was, after the videos for our meetings were posted without our knowledge, I sent an email. I sent a few emails requesting information as to how this happened without the committee being made aware of it. And there was some communication received from the city manager. Inevitably, I met with the mayor and city council member who I copied on the message in addition to the city manager, but I met with Mayor Salinas and Angela Andrews to discuss a few things. The expectation of council, because it's the council and the mayor that provides direction to staff, and then staff carries out that direction in these meetings. So to me, it sounded like there were a little bit of not a misunderstanding, but everybody wasn't on the same page. And so that's what we discussed. I also asked the mayor and the city council member what the apology actually meant. What did it mean then when it was approved? And the city council has changed since it was approved in at the end of 2021. But what does it mean now? And what is the expectation of council in providing direction and answering questions of staff who are participating in this process? And what you know, how can I help be one of the people who is communicating that back to the committee? And so I will share in the interest of time, I will make, I just have to make a PDF of the communication between, that references the email, so you have an idea of what the communication was back and forth. I requested to meet in the meetings. So this transitions. So first, I'll provide the notes of the meeting with you. I have to create a PDF, and that's not my area. I'm not the best person at creating PDFs of multiple documents, so please be patient. Second, in the emails that I sent to staff, we requested a meeting, which we had last week. Was it last week before?
Last Friday.
Thank you. So we had a meeting with Miss Youngblood and Miss Chacon to try and level set. And I think it was a productive meeting and brought us to a place where we have a better understanding of expectations, especially when it comes to the meeting recordings. So as the officers, we discussed with the staff members present that these meetings would be, these work sessions would be recorded. We would, after the meeting, have 3 business days to just check the recording, take notes. And then once the city receives the video recording of these Zoom meetings, they then will have 3 business days to post the meeting recording on the Reparative Justice Steering Committee website, or link it there. I believe the original or the home of the videos would be on YouTube or the city's YouTube channel. And so that it is not a surprise to any of us. That was one thing that was discussed, but as part of that discussion, the request was made to utilize a template in posting the videos so that when someone logs in to watch the video, they know what they're watching. They have an understanding that they're watching a reparative justice steering committee meeting. It's not something, there have been some postings of videos where, in previous meetings when, for example, when Tiffany was a facilitator, she was listening to music. So if you didn't know anything about the Russell City Reparative Justice Steering Committee, you would think that we have a DJ in the beginning of the meetings, which we don't. And so similar to some of the boards that I'm on, for the meetings that are recorded, they follow the same template so that regardless of the meeting that you're watching, you have an understanding of who you're watching, the date, and the agenda items, the different parts of the agenda that is being discussed. So the dead time in between transitions is cut out. But our, how we viewed this discussion is, we're here representing the larger Russell City community. And we're also here to educate folks about Russell City because many people are interested in this process. And we need to, we look at this as an opportunity to share our message and to continue to build support for Russell City, not as something that is going to frustrate people, hopefully not frustrate people, and turn them away from our stories and the work that we are doing. Michael, Liz, and Deborah, would you like to add anything from the meeting?
I only have one ask, and that is particularly as it relates to the posting of the recordings and the posting of the PowerPoint presentations that were made on February, I believe it was the 18th. In that meeting, that was the meeting, I believe, where the researchers presented their presentation. And I noticed that that presentation was in fact added to the website. But what was not added to the website, I don't know whether it was oversight, but the red light, yellow light, green light presentation that was attached to the agenda, somehow that didn't make it onto the information, the PowerPoint for the researchers. We just would respectfully ask that that presentation that was provided by the attorney be added to the February 18th meeting, along with what the researchers presented. That would be the only thing that I saw that notably was missing.
Absolutely.
I
we
believe
can-
that it's the January 18th.
I was going to ask, though, if you might want that attached to the December 14th meeting where he gave the verbal rendition of that document, right? So that people could see what he was talking about and then also have that written document as the visual of it. Would that be okay?
I actually think that makes sense because that was the actual, document that went with the presentation that we made. So yeah, that would make sense, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's ever anything, we're still trying to figure out what other than the meetings gets posted that wasn't necessarily presented, so to speak, on the 18th. But if there's ever anything you want to see up there, please do let us know. We're happy to put any other document up there. Like once we get the budget correct, is that something that should go up there? You just let us know.
Yeah, thank you. That's
So
all I have.
if that item could be noted that it was not presented in the meeting, but was provided to the steering committee. And then if you could provide the date that it was shared, just for factual purposes, that would be helpful. I can't remember if I saw anyone's hand. The last thing, the additional item. So two things. In the meeting that we had with staff, we agreed to have a agenda planning session the month prior, so about 2 weeks before the first meeting of the month. And so this would allow us to communicate with staff and staff to communicate with us about about the draft agenda items and prepare for the 2 meetings of the month. And the goal would be if there's content from those meetings that needs to be printed and mailed to committee members, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I need to see things in print, then that would allow staff enough time, that would allow us time to have the items printed and mailed to the steering committee members in preparation for the meeting. Because I'm, and we're anticipating to get some information from the researchers. I think it would be helpful if we have it in front of us when they're presenting. So the planning meeting for next month's 2 meetings will be on the last Friday of the month. Ms. Deborah Harris.
Yes, I had a question regarding your meeting with whoever, the Andrews and the who was it, the mayor? What date was that? Well, you're gonna send the stuff to us, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was just concerned.
What are your concerns?
My concern is we did not know you were going to talk to them, or should the committee have been involved in those meetings or not? I'm just asking.
That's a good question. So it was a question, well, it was a meeting for them to learn a little bit more about my experience on the committee, because I work with them and know them from different spaces. And I had included them on the emails that I was sending on behalf of the committee, because I was not receiving a response from anyone in the city manager's office related to the urgent topic of the videos that were posted that we had no knowledge of. I interpreted my role as chair as to be able to do that. And so that's why I met with them briefly. And also I had brief conversation with one other member of the, with the vice chair about the meeting. And then as a formal update, that's why it was on the agenda tonight. So there are 2 hands. First was from Jenny, and then we'll go to Ms. Marion.
Yeah, just wanting to confirm too, because the last Friday of the month is this Friday. So I wanted to make sure that everybody got my proposed time so that we were able to meet this Friday to plan ahead. But we can just email me back after. Just want to make sure that you guys, just a friendly reminder.
Yes, no, thank you. I haven't had the chance to respond to that email yet. But yes, that time should work, but isn't that the time of the panel? The reparations panel is in the morning.
Yeah, we're in the morning.
All right, thank you. Ms. Marion Johnson.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for speaking up regarding those videos being placed online without our prior knowledge. I think that when you work in a partnership, full transparency and notifications are very important to establish the trust that's necessary for this process to move forward. So I thank you for reaching out to them and expressing your concern, because it was definitely a concern for me to not have been notified prior to those videos being placed online. So what you have done is establish a pathway for conversation so that we are able to communicate our concerns, communicate our appreciation, communicate our questions. I think it's absolutely essential for us to work together as a team in order for this process to move along the way it should. So that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marion. Are there additional comments or questions? All right, seeing no, Ms. Deborah, you're on mute right now.
Okay. My question, I was not angry with you or anything. I just wanted, I was just asking the question, that's all. I'm glad you did it, for real. Okay, so we're finished with that.
Ms. Deborah, you know how many Zoom meetings I am in during the week sometimes? And we were on the picnic committee together, so I don't,
Correct.
being the chair of anything is not for the faint of heart, I will tell you that.
Okay,
But I don't take it, you know, we're family, so it's not,
yes,
it's not anything. I'm happy to, you know, they're lucky. They only I told them, I said, you're not ready to meet with the rest of the steering committee just yet. I have to screen people, you know. So having said that, I was contacted by the members of the Hayward Community Coalition and had a brief meeting with a brief Zoom meeting with some of them. They have watched all of our meeting videos and have reached out, would like to invite us to their next meeting on, so they have expressed an interest in inviting our steering committee members to their next meeting on March 2nd. So I will, once I received the Zoom information, I will send that to the committee. They also have expressed their support for us and the work that we are doing, as well as expressed and asked how they can help support our continued work to bring forth justice for the descendants and former residents of Russell City as we go through this research process. And so I did not answer that question, but told them that I would pass along the information and, you know, appreciated them for taking the time to watch all of our meeting videos. And, you know, for their support of us. They have offered to help us take meeting minutes. And they have graciously asked how they can help us organize and educate folks in the community about the work that is taking place. So that I think concludes my update. All right, any additional questions or comments? No, all right. Last item on the agenda. Is any agenda items for a future meeting? If there are any agenda items for a future meeting, feel free to let us know. And if there is nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. I didn't see anything else. Nobody raised their hand. So thank you for being here, and thank you to those who will be watching this meeting. That concludes our meeting for this evening. Thank you for joining us. Have a safe evening, and we'll see you next
all
week.
right. Thank you.
Thank you for all that you do, Ms. Knowles.
Thank
you.
you, Ms. Tony.
Thank you. Good night.
you.
Good night.
night.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.